I pulled into the driveway and saw the banner stretched across the garage. Red letters on white fabric screaming, "Goodbye, freeloader, don't come back." My family was celebrating underneath it. Aunt Sarah stumbled across the patio beer bottle, waving, shouting about my 32 years and no career. Uncle Frank launched a hot dog at my windshield, yelling about free meals. Grandma Dorothy shook her head from her lawn chair, declaring she always knew I'd amount to nothing. Cousin kids pointed and giggled. I walked to the porch, grabbed my final box of belongings, and returned to my car. Before driving away, I took one deliberate photograph. What my family never understood, what they refused to listen to for 3 years, was that I wasn't unemployed. I wasn't some basement-dwelling failure living off their charity. I was a freelance cybersecurity consultant working with some of the biggest corporations in America, but explaining that to people who thought computer work meant playing video games had become impossible. I moved back home after college for one reason, Dad. David Miles Patterson. The man who taught me to think logically, to solve problems step by step, was disappearing piece by piece. Early onset dementia had started stealing him away when he was only 58. Mom couldn't handle the caregiving alone, and nursing homes cost more than their combined Social Security and pension could cover. So I came home. I converted the basement into my office and continued the cybersecurity work I'd been building since college. My clients included 3 Fortune 500 companies, 2 major banks, and a healthcare network protecting patient data for over 2 million people. I debugged their systems, remotely prevented data breaches, and built security protocols that kept hackers from stealing everything from credit card numbers to medical records. But when Mom saw me at my computer for 12 hours a day, she saw laziness. When I tried explaining that I'd just prevented a Russian hacking group from accessing a pharmaceutical company's research data, she'd roll her eyes and mutter about getting a real job. When I showed her invoices for $20,000 for a single month's work, she accused me of making fake documents. The worst part was watching Dad during his lucid moments. He'd see the family's treatment of me and try to intervene, but the dementia made his words come out jumbled. Miles is... He'd start, then lose the thread completely. Miles does important, and then silence, frustration clouding his eyes as the words vanished. I paid for Dad's medications. I hired the part-time nurse aide who came 3 days a week. I covered the grocery bills and the increased utility costs from running medical equipment. My cybersecurity income was substantial, often reaching 6 figures annually, and most of it went straight into keeping Dad comfortable and the household running. Uncle Frank would visit and complain about having to help support the freeloader. Aunt Sarah would show up drunk and lecture me about responsibility, while I was literally changing Dad's sheets after another accident. Grandma Dorothy would shake her head and wonder aloud where she'd gone wrong with raising me. The irony was crushing. Here I was, protecting America's digital infrastructure, earning more than most of their traditional jobs combined, and sacrificing my own independence to care for a dying parent. But because I didn't wear a suit to an office building every morning, because I didn't punch a time clock, I was worthless in their eyes. When Dad passed 6 months ago, the grief hit everyone differently. Mom started blaming me for everything wrong in her life. She said having me around reminded her of Dad's sickness, of the burden we'd both become. She wanted me gone, and the rest of the family supported her decision. I'd been living in a modest apartment across town ever since continuing my consulting work and processing the complicated emotions of losing both my father and my family's respect in such a short time. The small apartment rent took only a tiny fraction of my income, but I chose to live simply while rebuilding my life. None of them had asked about my work recently. None of them cared where I'd been living or how I was supporting myself. They'd made their assumptions and refused to hear anything that contradicted their narrative of disappointment. That banner and that celebration weren't really about me leaving. They were about finally getting permission to express years of resentment without feeling guilty about it. They could be cruel to the family failure without anyone judging them for it. But I'd learned something important from Dad during his illness. He'd taught me that patience and persistence solve complex problems, that emotional reactions rarely lead to good solutions, that sometimes the best response to chaos is calm, methodical action. So I'd taken that photograph. Not because I was angry, though I was. Not because I wanted revenge, though that would come later. I took it because I knew the truth about my life, and someday they would too. The phone rang at 7:30 the next morning. Linda Walsh from Microsoft's cybersecurity division was calling about an urgent situation at one of their subsidiary companies, a manufacturing firm in Ohio that produced components for aerospace and defense contractors had detected unusual network activity. "We need someone with your specific expertise," Linda explained. "Your reputation in the cybersecurity community is impeccable. We've had 3 different firms recommend you specifically for this type of complex infiltration analysis." The subsidiary TechFlow Manufacturing had contracts with NASA and 2 defense contractors. Their systems contained blueprints for satellite components and aircraft navigation systems. If compromised, the breach could affect national security operations. "We're offering a 12-month contract," Linda continued. "You'd lead a team of 6 specialists, implement comprehensive security overhauls, and establish protocols to prevent future attacks. The total contract value would be $1.2 million. I sat in my modest apartment, looking out at the parking lot where I'd photographed my own family celebrating my departure, and realized that the timing was almost poetic. 24 hours after being called a worthless freeloader, I was being offered the largest contract of my career. The project would involve traveling to Ohio twice monthly, managing a team of cybersecurity experts from across the country, and working directly with federal contractors who took security clearances seriously. My background checks were already complete from previous government-adjacent work, which had accelerated the selection process. "When would you need an answer, Edie?" I asked, though I already knew my decision. "We'd prefer to have contracts signed by Thursday. The situation is deteriorating rapidly and we need to move fast." I accepted on the spot. Within hours, I was reviewing classified documents and assembling my team. Ryan Mitchell would handle network infrastructure, Amanda Clark would focus on endpoint security, and 4 other specialists would manage different aspects of the overhaul. The advance payment alone was more money than most people in my family made in 2 years. But more than the financial opportunity, this contract represented validation from people who understood the value of cybersecurity expertise. These were professionals who measured worth by results, not by traditional workplace appearances. I moved into a downtown apartment that afternoon. Not because I needed to show off, but because I finally felt free to live at the level my income supported. For 3 years, I'd lived modestly to avoid family accusations about spending money frivolously while Dad was sick. Now I could honor my success without guilt. The luxury building had a doorman, a fitness center, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the river. My monthly rent was still less than 20% of my new monthly income, but the space felt like a physical representation of the life I was finally allowing myself to build. That evening, I video called with my new team. Amanda was calling from San Francisco, where she'd just finished securing a tech startup against ransomware attacks. Ryan connected from Austin, where he'd been consulting with a major university system. The others joined from their locations across the country, and we spent 2 hours reviewing the TechFlow situation. "This is sophisticated work," Amanda observed. "These attackers have been inside the system for at least 6 months, maybe longer. They're extracting data slowly to avoid detection algorithms. The good news is they haven't found the most sensitive directories yet," Ryan added. "We can contain this if we move strategically." I'd worked with remote teams before, but never on such a high-profile contract with such clear national security implications. The responsibility was significant, but it felt natural. This was exactly the kind of complex problem-solving I'd been training for throughout my career. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Forgot to give you your father's watch. It's in my jewelry box if you want it." I stared at the message for several minutes. Dad's watch. the one he'd worn to his engineering job for 37 years, the one he'd tried to give me during one of his final lucid conversations. She'd forgotten about it for 6 months and now mentioned it casually, like she was offering leftover food. I typed back, "Keep it safe. I'll arrange pickup soon." But I didn't drive over that night. Instead, I opened my laptop and began the deep analysis work that would occupy my time for the next 12 months. The TechFlow network architecture was sprawling with vulnerabilities that had accumulated over years of rapid growth and inadequate security investment. By midnight, I'd identified 17 potential entry points that the attackers might exploit. By 3 in the morning, I'd drafted a preliminary security protocol that would close those gaps while maintaining system functionality for daily operations. This was the work I loved. The complex puzzles that required technical expertise, strategic thinking, and careful execution. The kind of work that my family had dismissed as playing on the computer, while I was protecting systems that kept planes flying safely and satellites functioning properly. The irony wasn't lost on me. While they were celebrating my departure as the removal of a burden, I was beginning the most significant professional chapter of my life. They saw failure where clients saw expertise. They saw worthlessness where the cybersecurity industry saw valuable skills. But their inability to recognize my worth wasn't my problem to solve anymore. I had real work to do, work that mattered, work that would prove itself through results rather than explanations. 6 weeks into the TechFlow project, everything changed on a Tuesday morning in November. Our security monitoring systems detected a massive coordinated attack targeting not just TechFlow, but 17 other defense contractors simultaneously. The attackers were using advanced persistent threat techniques that suggested state-sponsored hackers likely from Eastern Europe. Amanda called me at 5 in the morning. "Miles, we've got a problem. This isn't just data theft anymore. They're trying to install backdoors in manufacturing control systems." The implications were terrifying. If successful, the attackers could potentially sabotage the production of critical aerospace components affecting everything from commercial aircraft to military defense systems. Ryan had traced the attack vectors through multiple countries, confirming our worst suspicions about the sophistication level. I contacted Linda Walsh immediately. Within 2 hours, we had FBI cybercrime specialists on a conference call, along with representatives from the Department of Homeland Security. My team's work over the previous 6 weeks had prepared us for exactly this scenario. We need to coordinate defense across all affected companies simultaneously, I explained to the federal task force. If we shut down the attack at one company but leave others vulnerable, they'll just shift tactics. The next 72 hours were the most intense of my professional career. Working with federal investigators, my team orchestrated a multi-company defense that involved monitoring the attackers while they operated, documenting their methods, and then simultaneously cutting off their access across all 17 targets. Amanda discovered that the attackers had been stealing manufacturing specifications for satellite navigation components. Ryan found evidence they'd accessed quality control protocols for aircraft engines. Our counterintelligence work revealed attempts to modify safety specifications that could have caused catastrophic failures months or years later. On Thursday evening, we executed the shutdown. All 17 companies simultaneously activated new security protocols, closing the back doors and preserving evidence of the attack methods. The coordination was flawless, and within 6 minutes, the entire operation was neutralized. By Friday morning, the story was national news. CNN led with cyber attack on defense contractors prevented by security team. Fox News reported American cybersecurity expert stops foreign sabotage. The Associated Press ran a detailed story about the attack's scope and the technical expertise required to prevent it. My name appeared in every article. My photograph was featured prominently on news websites and television broadcasts. Linda Walsh praised our team's work in multiple interviews, specifically highlighting my leadership role and strategic thinking. Miles Patterson's approach to complex threat analysis is exactly why American cybersecurity maintains its edge she told a CNN reporter. His team's preparation over the past 6 weeks made this successful defense possible. The professional recognition was immediate and overwhelming. By Monday morning, I'd received 43 job offers from technology companies across the country, cybersecurity firms in Silicon Valley, financial institutions in New York, and government contractors in Washington were all competing for my attention. LinkedIn notifications filled my phone. My professional profile, which had shown modest activity for years, suddenly showed 28,000 profile views in a single day. Connection requests came from Fortune 500 executives, federal agency administrators, and international cybersecurity experts. Tuesday morning brought calls from journalists wanting background interviews. Wednesday featured a request to speak at the annual cybersecurity conference in Las Vegas. Thursday included an invitation to consult with a Senate subcommittee on digital infrastructure protection. Local media attention followed quickly. The Springfield Business Journal ran a front-page story about the hometown hero in cybersecurity. Channel 12 News requested an interview about growing up in the area and building a career in technology. I was dating someone new by then. Casey Thompson was a software engineer I'd met through professional networking, someone who understood the technical aspects of my work and shared my passion for solving complex problems. She'd been following the news coverage with excitement and pride. "This is incredible," she said, as we watched my interview on the evening news. "You're literally famous for being excellent at your job." The recognition felt surreal after years of family dismissal. Here were national news networks explaining the importance of my work to millions of viewers, while my own relatives had been convinced I was unemployable. Federal agents praised my expertise, while my uncle had been throwing hot dogs at my car. My consulting rate tripled overnight. Companies that had never heard of me were offering retainer agreements worth more than most annual salaries. The combination of technical skill demonstration and media attention created opportunities I'd never imagined possible. But the most significant change was internal. The imposter syndrome I'd carried for years, the nagging doubt that maybe my family was right about my lack of real success, completely disappeared. When the assistant director of the FBI's cybercrime division personally calls to thank you for protecting national security, it's impossible to believe you're worthless. I accepted a few select interviews and speaking opportunities, but mostly focused on building my newly expanded consulting practice. The TechFlow contract was just the beginning now. 6 other major corporations wanted similar comprehensive security overhauls. Friday evening, as I sat in my downtown apartment reviewing new contract proposals, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Mom's number. I let it go to voicemail, not ready to interrupt this moment of professional satisfaction with family drama. The voicemail was brief. "Miles, Mrs. Peterson next door saw you on television. She says you're some kind of computer expert now. Call me back when you can." I deleted the message and returned to my contract reviews. Whatever conversations were happening in my family's neighborhood, whatever realizations were beginning to dawn, those could wait. I had real work to finish and a thriving career to manage. The call came to Mom on a Wednesday morning while she was having coffee and watching her morning shows. Mrs. Peterson from next door was practically shouting with excitement. Jennifer, I just saw your Miles on the Today Show. He's some kind of national hero. They're calling him a cybersecurity expert who stopped foreign hackers from attacking American companies." Mom's first reaction was denial. "Mrs. Peterson? I think you must be mistaken. That couldn't have been my Miles. He doesn't have a job like that." "Oh, honey, it was definitely him, same face, same name," and they showed his college graduation photo. Miles Patterson from right here in Springfield. He was being interviewed about stopping some big cyber attack. They said he saved national security or something. After hanging up, Mom sat staring at her coffee mug, trying to process what she'd heard. She turned on the computer Dad had bought years ago, the one she barely knew how to use, and searched for my name online. The search results filled her screen. article after article from major news outlets, all featuring my photograph and praising my work. CNN, Fox News, CBS, NBC, The Washington Post, USA Today. My name appeared in headlines about cybersecurity, national defense, and preventing foreign attacks on American companies. She clicked on a CBS News video interview. There I was wearing a professional suit, confidently explaining technical concepts to a national television audience. The reporter introduced me as one of America's leading cybersecurity experts and mentioned my role in protecting defense contractors from sophisticated attacks. Mom called Aunt Sarah immediately. "Sarah, you need to get online right now and search for Miles's name. There's something we don't understand about his work." Aunt Sarah was hungover from the night before, but the urgency in Mom's voice motivated her to stumble to her computer. "What am I looking for?" she asked while typing. "Just search Miles Patterson Cybersecurity and tell me what you see." The silence on Sarah's end stretched for several minutes as she clicked through article after article. When she finally spoke, her voice was small and confused. "Jennifer, these articles are saying he prevented some massive attack on aircraft companies. They're calling him a national cybersecurity expert. Look at this. The Wall Street Journal has a whole article about his team's work protecting defense contractors." Uncle Frank arrived at Mom's house within an hour, laptop in hand. He'd been getting calls from his co-workers at the plant who'd seen the news coverage and recognized my name. "These articles say he's been working for Microsoft and major corporations for years," Frank said, scrolling through search results. "Look at this LinkedIn profile. It shows contracts with Fortune 500 companies going back to when he was still living here." Grandma Dorothy was the last to see the coverage when her neighbor at the senior center brought over a printed article from USA Today. "Dorothy, isn't this your grandson? The one you said never amounted to anything." The headline read, "Local cybersecurity expert prevents foreign sabotage of American manufacturing." Below it was my professional headshot and a detailed explanation of the attack we'd prevented. The article specifically mentioned my leadership role and quoted multiple federal officials praising my expertise. By Thursday evening, the family held an emergency meeting in Mom's living room. Laptops and printed articles covered the coffee table. The evidence was overwhelming and impossible to deny. "He was earning this kind of money while he was living here?" Sarah asked, pointing to an article that mentioned typical cybersecurity consultant rates. "We're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars annually." Frank was doing calculations on his phone. If these contract values are accurate, he was making more in a few months than I make in 2 years. And we were calling him a freeloader. "Look at this interview," Mom said, turning her laptop screen toward the others. "He's explaining how he's been protecting American companies from foreign hackers. He's talking about preventing attacks that could have affected national security. This isn't playing games on a computer. This is serious work." Grandma Dorothy was reading a printed article through her magnifying glass. "It says here he's been working with the FBI and Department of Homeland Security, government agencies, and we were treating him like he was unemployed. The worst realization came when they found articles that mentioned my father's illness and my caregiving responsibilities. One interview touched on my decision to work remotely so I could help care for a family member with dementia. The reporter had presented it as an example of professional dedication and family commitment. He was taking care of Dad and working with these major companies at the same time," Mom said quietly. "While we were complaining about supporting him, he was supporting us and doing this cybersecurity work." Sarah remembered all the times I'd tried to explain my job during family dinners. How she'd rolled her eyes when I mentioned preventing data breaches, how she'd made jokes about computer games when I was actually protecting hospitals and banks from criminal hackers. Frank recalled the day he'd demanded I get a real job, not knowing that my remote work was securing manufacturing systems that produced components for military aircraft. All those afternoons when I was just sitting at a computer, I'd been preventing foreign governments from accessing American defense technology. The social media discovery was even more embarrassing. They found my professional Twitter account, where I regularly shared insights about cybersecurity threats and prevention strategies. The account had over 15,000 followers, including executives from major corporations and federal cybersecurity officials. He's got people from Google and Apple following his Twitter account, Frank said, scrolling through my follower list, and we threw hot dogs at his car. But the most devastating discovery was the banner photograph. Sarah remembered me taking the picture, remembered thinking it was pathetic that I was documenting my humiliation. Now they realized I'd been documenting something entirely different. He took that photo of us celebrating under that banner, Mom said slowly. The banner calling him a freeloader while he was actually... She gestured helplessly at the pile of articles describing my professional achievements. We put up a banner celebrating the departure of someone who was protecting American national security. Grandma Dorothy said, her voice barely audible. And we didn't just do it privately. We made it a party. We invited everyone. The neighbors had been talking. Mrs. Peterson wasn't the only one who'd recognized me from the news coverage. People throughout the neighborhood were asking questions about why they'd celebrated my departure so publicly, especially now that everyone could see my actual professional status. Their phones started ringing by Friday morning. Extended family members, neighbors, even some of Frank's co-workers were calling with questions. The celebration had been visible enough, loud enough, that multiple people remembered it clearly. "We need to reach him," Mom said, staring at the pile of evidence surrounding her. "We need to explain that we didn't understand." But when they tried calling my old number, it went straight to a message saying the number was no longer in service. My social media accounts were either private or professional only, with no obvious way to send personal messages. The realization hit them simultaneously. They'd been so focused on getting me out of their lives that they'd never bothered to maintain any way to reach me once I was gone. The first attempts to reach me were simple phone calls to my old number, which they quickly discovered had been disconnected. Mom tried calling my old workplace, not understanding that freelance consultants don't have traditional offices with receptionists who take messages. By Friday afternoon, the family was becoming frantic. Sarah drove to my old apartment complex and discovered I'd moved months ago, leaving no forwarding address with the management office. Frank tried contacting my college alumni association, hoping they might have current contact information. Saturday morning brought the first wave of truly desperate measures. Uncle Frank appeared at the downtown office building where several technology companies operated, thinking he might find me there. He approached the security guard with my printed photograph from the news articles. "Excuse me, do you know if this man works in this building? I'm his uncle and there's been a family emergency." The security guard looked at the photo and shook his head. "Sir, I can't provide information about tenants or visitors. If this is truly an emergency, you should contact the police." Frank realized he'd need to be more creative. He remembered that one article mentioned my work with Microsoft, so he called their main customer service line, hoping to be transferred to someone who could relay a message. After 40 minutes of being transferred between departments, he was politely told that they don't provide employee contact information to family members. Sarah took a different approach. She created a Facebook account under a fake name and began searching for my personal social media profiles. She found my professional accounts easily enough, but my personal Facebook page was completely private, showing only my name and profile photo. Monday brought escalation. Mom appeared at Channel 12 News, the local station that had interviewed me, asking if they could help her contact her son. The receptionist explained that they don't provide contact information for interview subjects, but suggested she try reaching out through my professional social media accounts. "He's my son," Mom insisted. "There's been a misunderstanding in our family and I need to reach him urgently." "Why, ma'am, I understand your situation, but we have strict policies about protecting the privacy of people we interview. You might try reaching out through LinkedIn or his business email if it's publicly available." That afternoon, Sarah discovered my business email address through my professional website. Her first email was brief and desperate. "Miles, this is Aunt Sarah. We've seen the news coverage about your work. We had no idea about your career success. Please call Mom. She's worried about you, and wants to apologize for the misunderstandings. We love you and miss you. When that email went unanswered after 24 hours, she sent another. Miles, I know we hurt your feelings, but we honestly didn't understand what kind of work you were doing. The news articles explain everything so clearly. You're protecting America from cyber attacks. We're so proud of you. Please give us a chance to make things right. Frank took a more aggressive approach. He drove to the luxury apartment building where he suspected I might be living based on online searches, showing it as a common address for technology professionals in the area. He couldn't get past the security entrance, but he waited in the parking garage for hours, hoping to spot me coming or going. Wednesday brought the gift campaign. Mom ordered an expensive flower arrangement to be delivered to my business address with a card reading, "Miles, please forgive your family's ignorance. We want to celebrate your success properly this time. Love, Mom." When that didn't generate a response, Aunt Sarah sent a care package containing Dad's favorite cookies, a bottle of expensive whiskey, and a handwritten letter explaining how proud Dad would have been of my cybersecurity work. Uncle Frank's approach was more direct. He sent a certified letter to my business address containing a formal written apology and a check for $5,000. To help make up for the times we should have been supporting you instead of criticizing you, the letter read. Thursday escalated to social media stalking. Sarah created multiple fake accounts to follow my professional Twitter and LinkedIn profiles, hoping to identify mutual connections who might be willing to pass along messages. She found several college classmates and former co-workers and began reaching out to them directly. "Hi, I'm Miles Patterson's aunt. We've had a family misunderstanding and we're trying to reach him to apologize. Could you please ask him to contact his family? We've learned about his cybersecurity work, and we're so proud of him." Most of these contacts politely declined to get involved in family matters, but a few passed along the messages. Still, I remained silent. Friday brought public embarrassment. Aunt Sarah posted a lengthy Facebook status explaining the situation and apologizing publicly for the family's treatment of me. I need to publicly apologize to my nephew, Miles Patterson. Our family made terrible assumptions about his career and treated him badly when we should have been supporting him. We've since learned that he's a national cybersecurity expert who prevents attacks on American companies. Miles, if you see this, please contact us. We love you and want to make things right. The post was shared dozens of times by neighbors and extended family members, creating exactly the kind of public attention the family had been trying to avoid. Weekend efforts included hiring a private investigator. Frank contacted a local detective agency and paid $500 for them to locate my current address and phone number. "It's for a family reconciliation," he explained. "We need to reach him to apologize for a serious misunderstanding." The investigator found my apartment building and new phone number within 2 days, but when they attempted to make contact on the family's behalf, they reported back that I'd been polite but firm in declining to reconnect. By the second week, their efforts became increasingly intrusive. Mom called my apartment building's management office, claiming there was a medical emergency in the family. When that failed to produce my contact information, Sarah tried calling my internet service provider, claiming to be my sister needing to reach me about Dad's estate. Uncle Frank discovered that I'd been invited to speak at a cybersecurity conference in Chicago and bought a ticket planning to approach me there. His plan was to attend my presentation and wait outside the conference room afterward to force a conversation. The most desperate measure came when Grandma Dorothy convinced her doctor to write a letter, claiming she was experiencing health problems and needed to see me urgently. She planned to have it delivered through official channels, hoping I wouldn't ignore what appeared to be a medical emergency. Throughout all these attempts, my responses remained consistent, polite but distant acknowledgement that I'd received their messages, followed by clear statements that I needed more time before any reconciliation conversations could happen. By week 3, they had placed 114 calls to my new number, sent 47 emails to my business address, mailed 12 packages to my apartment, contacted 6 mutual acquaintances, hired 2 private investigators, and attempted to reach me through 3 different news organizations. Their desperation was growing daily, but my boundaries remained firm. I was processing their newfound recognition of my professional success, but I wasn't ready to pretend that years of dismissal and humiliation could be erased with a few apologetic phone calls. 3 weeks into their campaign, I finally decided to respond. But instead of a private phone call or email, I chose a public platform that would ensure my message reached everyone who needed to hear it. I posted the banner photograph on my professional Twitter account. The image showed my family celebrating underneath the "Goodbye Freeloader, Don't Come Back" banner, beer bottles, and plates of food clearly visible, everyone smiling and laughing. The composition captured the cruelty perfectly, adults celebrating the humiliation of a family member they dismissed as worthless. My caption was simple but comprehensive. This photo was taken 3 weeks after I'd prevented a coordinated cyber attack on American defense contractors. While I was being praised by federal investigators for protecting national security, my family threw a party to celebrate my departure. They called me a freeloader while I was earning 6 figures protecting America from foreign hackers. The banner speaks for itself. The post went viral within hours. Retweets, comments, and shares multiplied exponentially as people reacted with shock and outrage at the family's behavior. Technology industry professionals shared their own stories of being misunderstood by relatives who don't value technical careers. Cybersecurity experts expressed solidarity and support. By afternoon, major news outlets were picking up the story. It fit perfectly with existing narratives about the undervaluation of technical expertise and the importance of cybersecurity in modern America. CNN ran a segment about the disconnect between traditional career recognition and actual professional value in technology fields. The story resonated beyond the technology community. Social media was filled with people sharing experiences of family members who dismissed their careers until outside recognition forced a perspective change. The hashtag Goodbye Freeloader began trending as people shared similar stories of professional misunderstanding. Professional contacts rallied around me immediately. LinkedIn was flooded with supportive comments from Fortune 500 executives, federal officials, and cybersecurity colleagues, expressing outrage at my family's treatment. The narrative became a rallying point for technology professionals who felt undervalued by traditional industries. Local media attention was intense, but supportive. Channel 12 News ran a follow-up story about the post interviewing technology industry leaders about the challenges of explaining cybersecurity work to people outside the field. The Springfield Business Journal editorialized about the importance of recognizing and supporting local technology talent. My family's public humiliation was swift and comprehensive. Their neighbors saw the viral post and began asking uncomfortable questions about why they'd treated a national cybersecurity expert so poorly. Uncle Frank's co-workers at the manufacturing plant shared the story, leading to awkward conversations about family respect and professional recognition. Aunt Sarah's employer, a local insurance company, received multiple calls from clients who'd seen the story and wondered if their data was secure. With a company that employed someone who couldn't recognize cybersecurity expertise in her own family. While she didn't lose her job, the professional embarrassment was significant. Mom faced the worst consequences in her social circles. The church community, where she'd been complaining about supporting her unemployed son for years, now knew she'd been wrong about everything. The ladies' auxiliary, the book club, the volunteer organizations. Everywhere she'd sought sympathy for her burden was now revealed as places where she'd been unknowingly lying. After 48 hours of viral attention, I posted a follow-up thread explaining my terms for any potential reconciliation. For those asking about my family situation, I'm open to rebuilding relationships with family members who are willing to demonstrate genuine change. This requires 4 specific commitments. First 6 months of individual therapy, focused on understanding how they contributed to family dysfunction and learning healthy communication patterns. Second, a public apology, acknowledging their mistreatment and misconceptions posted to their own social media accounts. Third, a donation of $5,000 each to cybersecurity education programs, demonstrating commitment to understanding the field they dismissed. Fourth, 1 full year of no contact while they complete therapy, and I continue building my independent life. Only after these 4 requirements are met would I consider limited structured contact with appropriate boundaries. The response to my terms was overwhelmingly supportive. Mental health professionals praised the healthy boundary setting and requirement for genuine change rather than surface-level apologies. Business leaders appreciated the accountability measures and demonstration of values through charitable giving. Some family advocates criticized my approach as harsh or unforgiving, but cybersecurity professionals and abuse recovery specialists defended my right to require real change before risking further emotional harm. The broader conversation sparked by my story expanded beyond family dynamics to systemic issues in how American society values different types of work. Technology industry associations began referencing my situation in discussions about the respect gap between traditional careers and digital expertise. Universities with cybersecurity programs invited me to speak about both technical topics and the personal challenges of building a career in an undervalued field. High schools asked me to address students interested in technology careers, helping them understand both the opportunities and potential family dynamics they might face. The speaking opportunities provided additional platforms to explain why my requirements for family reconciliation were necessary. I emphasized that forgiveness doesn't require accepting continued disrespect, and that healthy relationships require mutual recognition and genuine change. Corporate diversity and inclusion programs began using my story as a case study in recognizing and respecting different types of professional expertise. The disconnect between my actual professional success and my family's perception became a powerful example of how bias and limited understanding can damage relationships and fail to recognize valuable contributions. My dating life with Casey was becoming more serious, partly because she'd witnessed the entire situation unfold and understood both my professional success and personal strength. Having a partner who valued my work and supported my boundary setting made it easier to maintain my requirements despite family pressure. The viral attention brought dozens of new professional opportunities, but more importantly, it established me as an advocate for technology professionals facing similar family dynamics. Multiple people reached out sharing their own stories of being dismissed by relatives who didn't understand their careers. By the end of the first week after my post, I felt confident that my public response had achieved its goals, establishing clear expectations for reconciliation, creating accountability for my family's behavior, and turning my personal experience into advocacy for others facing similar challenges. The ball was now in my family's court. They could meet my requirements and demonstrate genuine change, or they could continue their patterns and remain excluded from my life. Either way, I was building a successful independent future with or without their support. 1 year later, I was reviewing the results of my family's efforts to meet my reconciliation requirements. The outcomes were exactly what I'd expected: mixed success that revealed the true character of each family member. Grandma Dorothy had surprised everyone by completing all 4 requirements ahead of schedule. She'd spent 8 months in individual therapy, working specifically with a counselor who specialized in family communication patterns. Her therapist helped her understand how she'd enabled decades of dysfunction by allowing criticism and dismissal to go unchallenged. Her public apology was genuine and detailed, posted to her Facebook account, where most of her church and senior center friends would see it. I need to publicly apologize to my grandson, Miles Patterson. For years, I dismissed his career and called him worthless, when he was actually protecting American companies from cyber attacks and earning substantial income. I was wrong about his professional success and wrong to support family members who treated him cruelly. I've been in therapy to understand how I contributed to this dysfunction, and I've donated to cybersecurity education programs to demonstrate my commitment to valuing the work I previously dismissed. Miles, when you're ready, I hope we can rebuild our relationship based on respect and understanding. The donation to cybersecurity education had been meaningful as well. She'd researched programs carefully and chosen a scholarship fund that helped low-income students access cybersecurity training. The $5,000 would fund partial scholarships for 3 students, creating opportunity for people who might face similar family misunderstanding about technical careers. Mom had partially complied with my requirements, but her efforts revealed the limitations I'd expected. She'd attended therapy for 4 months before deciding she'd learned enough. Her public apology was brief and focused more on defending herself than acknowledging harm. I want to apologize to my son Miles for not understanding his computer work. I was grieving my husband's death and didn't realize Miles was successful. I hope we can move forward as a family. Her donation to cybersecurity education was made reluctantly, and she'd chosen the smallest possible amount that could technically meet my requirement. The lack of genuine commitment was obvious to everyone watching the situation unfold. Uncle Frank had refused therapy entirely, claiming that real men don't need counselors to tell them how to think. He'd made no public apology and no charitable donation. Instead, he'd tried to argue that my requirements were unnecessarily harsh and that I should just forgive and forget like family is supposed to do. Aunt Sarah had started therapy, but quit after 3 sessions when the counselor began addressing her alcohol abuse alongside the family communication issues. She'd posted a defensive social media message that blamed her drinking for the cruel comments, but didn't acknowledge the years of dismissive behavior that preceded the banner incident. The 1-year no-contact period had been essential for my own healing and growth. During that time, my consulting business had expanded into a full company with 12 employees. We specialized in protecting mid-size American companies from the kind of sophisticated attacks I'd first encountered with TechFlow Manufacturing. My relationship with Casey had developed into an engagement with wedding plans for the following spring. She'd been supportive throughout the family drama, but more importantly, she'd helped me understand what healthy family relationships should look like by contrasting my experiences with her own family's patterns. Professional success had continued growing beyond anything I'd imagined possible. Speaking engagements, corporate consulting contracts, and advisory positions with federal agencies had established me as a nationally recognized cybersecurity expert. The irony that my career peak coincided with family exile wasn't lost on me. When the year ended, I invited Grandma Dorothy to have coffee at a neutral location downtown. Our first conversation in 12 months was awkward but genuine, focused on understanding how we'd both contributed to family dysfunction and what healthy boundaries would look like going forward. I spent a lot of time in therapy understanding how I enabled your mother's criticism and your uncle's dismissiveness, she said. I thought keeping peace meant not challenging bad behavior, but that just allowed the cruelty to continue. I appreciate that recognition, I replied. And I've learned that forgiveness doesn't require accepting continued disrespect. We can have a relationship, but it needs to be based on mutual respect rather than family obligation. We established a pattern of monthly coffee meetings with clear agreements about communication styles and topics. Grandma Dorothy earned my trust through consistent respect for my boundaries and genuine interest in understanding my work and life. The other family members remained excluded from my life by their own choices. Mom occasionally sent text messages asking when I'd be ready to move past this, not understanding that her partial efforts hadn't demonstrated the genuine change required for reconciliation. Uncle Frank had become increasingly angry about my public success and his public embarrassment, occasionally posting bitter social media comments about ungrateful nephews and family loyalty. His inability to accept responsibility for his behavior confirmed my decision to maintain boundaries. Aunt Sarah's drinking had worsened. After the viral attention leading to job performance issues and social problems beyond our family situation. Her refusal to address the underlying issues that had contributed to her cruelty made reconciliation impossible. The broader impact of my story continued growing through speaking engagements and professional writing. I'd become an advocate for technology professionals, facing family misunderstanding, helping others set healthy boundaries while building successful, independent lives. Casey and I were planning a wedding that would include Grandma Dorothy and my professional colleagues, but none of the family members who'd chosen not to meet my reconciliation requirements. The guest list represented the difference between people who respected my worth and people who expected forgiveness without change. My father's watch, which Mom had offered so casually a year earlier, remained in her possession. When I'd eventually retrieved it through Grandma Dorothy, I'd discovered that Dad had left a note inside the box. For Miles, who solves problems with patience and wisdom like his grandfather taught me, your work matters more than they understand. The note confirmed what I'd suspected throughout the ordeal. Dad had understood and respected my career even when dementia made it difficult for him to express that recognition clearly. His final message validated my professional path and my decision to require genuine respect rather than accepting dismissive tolerance. Looking back on the banner incident and everything that followed, I understood that my family's cruel celebration had actually been a gift. It had forced me to build an independent life based on genuine accomplishment and mutual respect, rather than obligatory family ties. The pain of that humiliation had motivated me to establish clear boundaries and require authentic change rather than accepting surface-level apologies. The viral attention had connected me with thousands of people who understood the value of my work and supported my professional success. Most importantly, the entire experience had taught me that true family relationships require mutual respect, genuine understanding, and willingness to acknowledge and change harmful behaviors. Biology alone doesn't create meaningful connections. Shared values and consistent respect do. As I finished reviewing the year's events and prepared for my engagement dinner with Casey and Grandma Dorothy, I felt grateful for the clarity the banner incident had provided. Sometimes the cruelest moments reveal the most important truths about relationships and help us build the authentic lives we deserve. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family members who didn't respect your career or life choices? How did you balance forgiveness with requiring genuine change? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with your experiences, please like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit from understanding that respect should be mutual in all relationships, including family ones. Thank you for taking this journey with me, and I hope my experience helps you recognize your own worth and build relationships based on genuine respect and understanding. Remember, your professional success and personal boundaries matter regardless of whether your family understands them or not.